Lauren Danielle. If it's the first time you're seeing my face, welcome to my channel. I would love you to subscribe down below and become a part of our family. I post every Tuesday and Thursday. Cross your fingers. So today, I'm sure you can tell by the title of the video, I am sharing my miscarriage story. But before I get on to that, I want to say that I was a little bit hesitant on filming this video just because I didn't want to give out the wrong idea as to why I'm filming this, doing this for attention, blah 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 blah. So before I even start on this, I want to put out a big disclaimer. I'm not doing this for attention. I don't want your pity. I don't want to portray this as a sad story. I am 110% I don't know if over it is the words to put out, but I'm not emotional over it. I don't think about it every day. It's not something that I want you to feel pity for me over. 1 in 4 pregnancies end up in this. 25% of all pregnancies end up in miscarriage. This is something that happens. I truly believe that we are put on this earth to help others with our stories and through our testimonies. And one of the first things that I did when I was going through this is go on YouTube and watch other moms that have went through this. It was giving me comfort just relating to somebody that's went through this. So that is the point of me putting out this video. It's not for attention, it's not for pity, it's just to give others comfort just by telling my story if I can. So this is why this video is readily available to you if it may apply, or you may just found this video out of curiosity. But we're just gonna go ahead and move on. So back in October, I would say mid-October, I actually don't remember an exact date, so a little background, I'm not and wasn't then on birth control, so I take regular pregnancy tests, just something I did for peace of mind. I was also drinking wine on Friday nights just as my little cool down, so I just didn't want, I just took regular pregnancy tests just to make sure, peace of mind. So I was taking one of my routinely pregnancy tests, wasn't really having any symptoms. I was a little nauseous like in the nighttime for like 2 days, but I didn't think it was pregnancy related. I hadn't actually missed my period yet. My period's super irregular, so I could never go on that to begin with anyways. But yes, taking a routine pregnancy test, I let it go for, I don't know, a minute and a half, and if you watch how I found out I'm pregnant when I was 18, it came up positive in like less than 30 seconds. So after a minute, I was like, whatever, chunked in the garbage, got in the bathtub. Something within me, I'm going to just go ahead and say it was God, told me to take that pregnancy test out of the garbage can and just look at it again. And when I did, there was the slightest faint line. Like very, 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 very slight. So I told Mason, and Mason immediately went and bought me another test and a different kind, but it was still the 2 lines, and immediately it came up another faint line. So I was like, well, even if it's faint, I know that it's still positive, so I'm pregnant. And so that was on a Friday, and Sunday after church, we went ahead and told our family. You know, I wasn't thinking anything had happened. Mason's mom was absolutely ecstatic for us. His little sister was so happy. And yeah, so Monday I went because my OB is a very well-known OB, it was really hard for me to get into her, and I knew, of course, just for my first pregnancy, that I would just have to do a routine blood work. I wouldn't even be doing an exam until I found out my levels. So I went to an urgent care thinking they could do blood work and I could just give me a head start on where my levels were, so I could just get them to fax it over to my doctor. And they didn't in fact do a blood work at that urgent care I went to. Said they just did a urine test, and she was like, it's very, very, very faint. Still, her words weren't concerning. She said if I was having any cramping or abdominal pain, and she said no. I said no, and she was like, okay, we'll just follow up with your OB. So I did. About 2 days later, I went into my OB's, and they did a urine pregnancy test, and it came back negative. I was really, really confused. I was like, well, I got all these positive pregnancy tests, fake positives, and then I went to the urgent care and they said it was a fake positive, and she was like, well, hey, you might just be super, super early along. Sometimes our tests are actually more sensitive and you have to have more HGCs than your home pregnancy test, which I thought that was a little weird. But anyway, she sent me downstairs to do labs, and I got my blood drawn. And they were actually, I'm a super anxious person. I have to know every detail about it right then and there. I hate waiting. I'm very impatient. And they were actually closed the next day. So I was like, look, can you just call me? And she was like, look, I'm gonna call you my personal cell phone. I trust you not to get it out or anything like that. But she did call me on her personal cell phone. And yeah, she said that it was my HGCs were at a 9. She said still her voice was very calm, didn't make me worry. She said, I've never caught a pregnancy this early. We're gonna go ahead and see you back in 2 weeks. That way your levels can get to where they're at. I want to get blood work in 2 more weeks, and then we'll see about an ultrasound. Because according to that, I was literally under or right at 2 weeks pregnant. So I was like, okay, wasn't thinking anything about losing the baby or anything like that. Well, that was a Wednesday when she called me, and I went Thursday. Nothing was really going on that was concerning. And Friday, the whole month of October in our town, they have pumpkin patches on the weekend. So I remember we took Blakelyn to the pumpkin patch, and after an hour there, I was so exhausted. I was exhausted. I didn't think anything of it, just because, hey, first trimester pregnancy, you're always exhausted. The first and the last trimester of pregnancy, you were exhausted 24/7. You could not get enough sleep. So I didn't really think anything of it. Got home, and my stomach started cramping a little bit, and I was like, hey, I looked it up because that was kind of concerning. I don't necessarily remember having period-like cramps whenever I was pregnant with Blakelyn. And I looked it up, and it said that it could be like my uterus stretching and implanting the embryo, since I was so early. And so Google, never Google anything, good or bad. I just don't do it. So that kind of made me calm down, and I lay there and I was like, let me just try to take a nap. Well, I couldn't lay there and take a nap, and I had to go pee, so I went to the bathroom, and it was a little bit of spotting. I wasn't freaking out, but I was at that point I was like, I'm not freaking out yet, but something's not going on that's right. I'm cramping, plus I'm having a little spotting. And I had implantation spotting with Blakelyn, but it was not like that. It was a little bit of pink. This was it wasn't a lot, but it was concerning. So I called Mason's aunt to come see if she could watch Blakelyn while I could go to the doctor. And within me doing that, I went to the bathroom again, and this time was just crazy amount of blood. And at that point, I knew that I was currently having a miscarriage. I really freaked out. I was hysterical. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get in touch with Mason because he was on a job and just wasn't answering the phone. So Ginger, Mason's aunt, actually went with me to the ER, and her older child actually stayed with Blakelyn. And I went to the ER, and that was the most horrific experience, as if I wasn't going through enough already. That ER and their staff was so rude and just so unsympathetic. They made me repeat about 50 times, because you go in assessment and then you go to the room, and then 3 people come in your room, what was going on. And Mason's aunt finally said, do y'all not put this, y'all are sitting there typing everything out, what, I know y'all are typing what she's saying, so why can't y'all just read it instead of her verbalizing every 5 minutes that she's having a miscarriage? And they were so rude to me, saying, well, this is why you don't come to an ER. And I was like, my doctor told me to come to an ER. I go to the doctor that's an hour away, and they told me to go to the nearest ER. Super rude. And then like they wanted to go based on my last menstrual cycle, and I was like, look, my periods are so irregular. So the doctor was like, you're not having a miscarriage, you're just getting your period. And I was like, look, I know my body, I know what's going on, it's not what's happening. So they made me go pee in a cup, and when I pee, like, it was just like, this is TMI, but it was like straight, like gulpy. It was gross. It was gross. And at that point, I knew, I was like, there's nothing I can do. There's no kind of shot they can give me. There's nothing, like, this is it. And I was hysterically crying again in the bathroom. I just remember, like, that was probably the worst moment ever recently that's happened in my life. Like, just thinking in that moment, there's nothing I can do. That you're just kind of powerless over that situation. And to me, I'm sure that's how a lot of women feel when they go through this similar thing, that our bodies are made for this. So when this happens to our body, even though it's pretty common, we just feel like failures as women, and that our body's made for this. Why aren't you functioning the way it should? Or that's how I felt. I'm sure that's pretty relatable. So whenever I gave back this little cup of blood, they took more blood work, and they finally got my papers faxed over from the other doctor that showed I had a 9, and then the blood work came back at the hospital that I had a 2, and they came in and told me, and by that time Mason had finally got to the hospital. The horrible experience to go through that, and then have the ER and doctors who are supposed to care for you say and be that way toward you. It's just super unprofessional and sympathetic to me, and just made my experience that much horrible. But yeah, guys, I don't really know what else to say. I don't really know. I'm kind of like in an awkward, like, I'm really bad at outros. Intros, you know, I can do that, but like outros, I just get all awkward and like, you know. So this is my outro. That was my story. If you were wondering, I was 21. A month before that happened, or a month before that happened, I had just turned 21. So it was about 6 months ago now. But yeah, that was my story. A little sad, a little downing, but I hope I could help and reach out and give comfort to somebody that's going through the same thing, or, you know, if you just randomly click the video, whatever. I'm so awkward. Well, bye.
Thank you, Mason.